Hey guys, this is Elation Podfic, and today we're going to be reading Who's Old Now by Lyra Bourgeoisie. This is Chapter 4. And then, Socceridge, thank you. He says that no matter what, I'm his son. Bruce doesn't get mushy, but we have it on video. It's a miracle, Danny. Some people just need a push, or 20. Pressure gauge, thanks Jay. But actual emotionally competent conversation? Do you know what spurred this on? Jason looked up at Danny over his motorcycle, grease smeared on his cheek and a smile on his face. Apparently, I have Captain Marvel to thank for that. The captain's getting pretty high up on my favorite hero list. Danny gave a teasing grin, but never above Wonder Woman. Never. Speaking of Amazonian goddesses, how's your sister? You two live in the same city, man. You could check in on her if you wanted. Been busy this past week. First B drops an emotionally competent conversation on me. Then I can't even do anything about it because there was a fucking mass breakout at Arkham. So it's been all hands on deck for the past week. Jason threw up his hands, wrench going dangerously close to Danny's face. Well, dangerous if he was an average human. Just finally got a chance to talk to you and get a check in on my bike. And I can't even swing by for dinner to see Billy. Oh? Danny perked up. What do you have going on? Jason rolled his eyes. Apparently, it's Bring Your Kid to Work Day in the Justice League. B is dragging me and the demon child along. I'm only going because I can meet Wonder Woman, I'll have you know. Jason wagged his wrench at Danny's smirking face. No other family bonding reason or whatever you're cooking up. Danny's face broke into an unsettlingly wide, sharp grin. Oh, I've got a plan cooking up. You wouldn't be able to come to dinner tonight anyways. I now have an alternate plan. Jason deadpanned at Danny. If I didn't know you're a fellow undead vigilante, I'd be far more concerned by that. Do I want to know? Former vigilante. And you'll find out soon enough. I wouldn't want to ruin the surprise. Danny chuckled in a way Jason could only define as somewhere between mischievous and menacing. How do you think Billy's going to feel about your mysterious plan? Danny's grin stretched from vaguely inhuman to edging on Eldridge abomination territory. It's every parent's job to embarrass their kid at least once. The moment Billy walked into the apartment, something in his brain began screaming, "Predator." This did not alarm him, as much as it probably should have. The last time he had felt this, it had been when he walked in on Danny and Ellie having a stare-down over what kind of seasoning to use on the chicken. Ellie argued for some burn-your-face-off spices she had brought from her last travel, while Danny argued for something more mild. He grew up in the Midwest, for fuck's sake. Ellie won. Billy enjoyed dinner. Danny did not. Before that, it had been Danny staring down a floating eyeball ghost in the living room before telling them to fuck off. So Billy wasn't concerned. Until he walked in to see an unholy impish light glowing off at Danny in his phantom form. "Billy!" Danny sang in a way that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. "You didn't tell me there was a Bring Your Kid to Work Day event?" Static electricity prickled at the back of his neck, and Zeus needed to stop laughing. Okay, play it cool. Do not indulge in mischief. Is there? I hadn't heard. He didn't talk like that. That was just suspicious. Too late, Jason told me, and I want to meet your coworkers. No way, are you nuts? We could get caught. For what? Lying about our ages? Hey, we never told them how old we were. It's their fault for assuming based on appearances. Billy leveled a flat look at Danny, floating serenely. Yeah. Lie of omission and all that, but it'd be so fun. I want to meet your coworkers, and it's a space station, Billy. Danny said, as if that were all the explanation that was needed. Which, given Danny's fascination with space, was an explanation in its own way. We barely managed a conversation on a call. How could we keep it up for an entire evening in front of the Justice League, including their kids? Do they know you're human? Billy rolled with the change in topic, as both he and Danny had these kinds of arguments before. No. Then how should they know how you're supposed to raise your kid? I'm a different species. We could have different milestones or concepts of caretakers. You're a demigod, Billy. They can't tell you how to parent your kid. And if they do try, you can tell them off. Win-win. But I'd be lying even more, even worse. I don't know. I know I'm always doing it to them, but I don't like lying. I don't want to hurt them. Billy wilted and looked down at the floor, a cold presence, and asked Danny, getting closer. Hey, I don't want to pressure you. You don't have to go. You don't want to go? We won't. I think it'd be a fun type of prank. But if it isn't fun to you, then I won't. Billy lifted his face to Danny's gentle smile. The choice is always yours, kiddo. I didn't mean to stress you out. Billy slumped forward into Danny and felt small and cold arms wrap around him. Even when Danny was the size of a teenager and wrapping around him like a gaseous snake, Billy felt comforted. I think, Billy mumbled into Danny's hazmat suit, I think it would be so funny. But I don't want to do it if I feel worse about doing it than it makes me happy. Thanks for telling me. We won't if you don't want to. I can make mac and cheese and watch a movie before you go out on patrol, or whatever you feel like. Billy weighed his options. He could stay home, maintain the status quo. Or he could take a risk his identity, risk Danny's. But he could take Danny up to the watchtower, show him the stars, and what he does, and his coworkers and the people he considers friends. Will Jason be there? Yep, and his youngest sibling. Do you think he'll go with it? He's always in favor of pulling one over people. He'll keep my secret. Alright, let's do it. Jason choked on his drink. The only one to notice was the demon Brett. What is your malfunction, Hood? But even with the disparaging comment, Jason could tell Damien was sweeping the room with his eyes. It was a standard kind of party setup. Snack table with sealed and unsealed foods, and speeds to snacks in between. Drink table, also with sealed and unsealed options, and various league members and their protégés scattered around. Jason pegged the exact moment Damien saw what Jason was looking at. I was unaware Captain Marvel had spawned. Jason said nothing and continued to stare, because Captain Marvel had not spawned, sired, or produced, or any other weirdly formal word Damien would use. That was Danny, in his phantom form, hovering around the captain and generally acting like a giddy kid in a space station full of heroes. That's Phantom, Batman said from behind them, and Jason did not jump at the reappearance from wherever the hell the Batman disappeared to during parties. He is Marvel's adopted child. He's a ghost. And then the old man glided over in the direction of Marvel and Phantom, who were quickly gaining attention, with those Robin trailing at his heels. Jason was frozen in some form of shock. Some part of his brain decided to hysterically remind him of the first time Danny had introduced him to his friend and his sister. 2 truths and a lie? Jason had asked incredulously. Yep, Sam had replied. With the wacky shit that happens to us, we could have the fucking coolest games, Tucker had said, waving half of a circuit board around. But since we were all there for it, we can only play it when someone else is brought into the know, which isn't often. I'll go first, Danny replied. We're unsure of how many times I've died. I'm ghost royalty, and I can quote a good third of Pride and Prejudice. Spoiler alert, Jason lost a lot. But he did get them with, an assassin cult leader has possession of my brother's left kidney lie. Tim had lost his spleen, not his kidney. That had been almost a half a year ago, and it seemed Bruce wanted to play too. Truth, that was Phantom. Truth, he was a ghost. Lie, he's Captain Marvel's kid. What the fuck? And then, that little shit made eye contact from across the room, hanging over Marvel's shoulder like the undead Schrodinger's cat he was, and winked. Well, Jason supposed pretending to be Captain Marvel's kid in front of the Justice League would be embarrassing to Billy. Jason saluted back to Danny. Godspeed, you bastard, Jason thought at Danny. Phantom's sharp-toothed grin widened. Barry couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe it when he had first heard the call, or when the Zeta had called out that Captain Marvel was here, along with a guest. But what did he know? Because that was a teenager literally hovering over Marvel, smiling at Diana and saying how lovely it was to meet her. Pandora sends their well wishes. And the Master of Time approves of her actions, and oh, of course he knows gods. He lives with Captain Marvel after all. Close your mouth, Flash. You might accidentally eat Adam, Black Canary teased as she came up behind him at the snack table to watch the show. Said show currently being Diana offering Phantom sword lessons, and Phantom looking at Marvel with puppy eyes, while the captain looked somewhere between uncomfortable and exasperated. Rather like how Barry had felt when Wally had asked permission to train with the Bats during his Kid Flash days. Rob had offered after all. These thoughts zipped through his mind in less than a half second before he replied to Diana. Very funny, but Adam's not here. And you can't say you're not tempted. Did you ever think that Cap would be a dad? Stranger things have happened, Diana replied with a little smirk. And from what I've seen, the captain's doing a perfectly fine job. Her smirk melted into a little smile. Have you ever seen him this honestly happy? Barry wanted to agree. Marvel gives Soups a run for his Boy Scout title. The dude always smiled. He was so chipper and genuine in his enthusiasm to be part of the Justice League. To help people. But Barry kept his mouth shut and looked like Dinah said. Looked how Marvel's Thousand Watt smile was smaller, softer, content. Looked at how his bright blue eyes dulled to less like the sun, but a cozy fireplace at home. Looked at how his broad shoulders slumped, like a tension he had been carrying was lightened simply by being near Phantom, and his usual chatter. He looked at Captain Marvel, and Barry thought he finally understood Marvel's World Mightiest Mortal title. He didn't look like a demigod, larger than life and brimming with confidence and power. He looked like a man simply happy to be with his family. He looks happy, really happy. Oh shit, he's coming this way, Barry replied before cutting himself off. Marvel and his kids seemed to be tired of getting stuck in conversation at the door, and were coming over in their direction. Barry had never seen someone fly like Phantom did, There was a grace, a fluidness, like all the gravity was artificial and optional to Phantom. So sue him if he jumped a little when Phantom slid past him to grab something at the snack table. "Hi, Black Canary, Flash," the kid greeted, holding on to his prize. But Barry noticed something on the packaging. "Hey kid, I don't think you want to eat that. It's for speeds to metabolisms. Don't want you to get sick," Barry said with a light grin. "It's fine," Phantom said, waving him off and unwrapping the healthy carbohydrate-filled cookie. Barry flashed a look up to Marvel, waiting for him to say something, but then the captain crossed his arms and raised his eyebrow in a challenging manner. The look took Barry aback a bit, but well, when someone questioned whether it was actually healthy for Wally to eat as much as he did, Barry probably gave that kind of look too. The "you heard him" look. Barry didn't press any further. "You got a big metabolism too?" Barry asked instead. "Yep. Helps to compensate when I can't get enough ectoplasm." Barry had no clue what that was, but let it go. Phantom's face screwed up into a contemplative look, and he looked over at Marvel. Not up. Phantom hovered at the same height as Marvel. "Hey, do you think Phantasm could have some of these? So she doesn't have to take as many ectoplasm supplements when traveling." Before the captain could reply, Barry blurted out, "Wait, you've got more family?" Marvel just stared at Barry before looking over at Phantom. Phantom in return nodded as if giving permission. "Yeah, she goes by Phantasm. She enjoys traveling, so she isn't home often," Marvel answered. "Older sister?" Canary questioned, and Barry almost jumped. He had almost forgotten she was there. "Nah, clone. But we prefer little sister," Phantom replied casually, biting into his cookie as if he hadn't just dropped a metaphorical bomb into the conversation. Because Superman had been approaching and had frozen at hearing the C word. "Walk away, walk away, walk away," Barry chanted internally. While Supes and Connor had a better relationship now, it was still rocky. Superman always hung up on the clone thing, and Connor being unhappy with the rejection. Which, fair, but that wasn't Barry's business. It was Batman's self-appointed job to deal with that mess, because he had no fear of the angry Kryptonian. But nope, they were not that lucky. Superman was approaching even quicker, and both Barry and Canary, that rhymed, were trapped up against the snack table, and also trapped by societal convention. But that was besides the point. "Clones?" Superman asked with an agitated voice. Phantom turned to look at Superman with narrowed eyes. "Yes, I love her very much. That's not an issue, right?" Phantom's tone was perfectly placid, but Barry could swear that there was more of a chill in the room than there was before. But for some reason, Superman relaxed slightly. "Oh, you chose to have her?" he asked innocently. It was, however, definitely the wrong thing to say. In addition to the chill in the air, there was now static electricity prickling along Barry's arms. He looked over to Canary with wide eyes, but she just made a calm gesture and continued to watch the superpowered train wreck of a conversation. "What does that have to do with loving her?" the captain asked with a hostile tone Barry had never heard from him before. Marvel didn't even talk to his villains like that, always speaking with compassion and reaching a hand out before even making a fist. It was something Barry had always admired about the captain before, but Superman had somehow found the breaking point on a good man, defending his family. Superman blinked and looked surprised and vaguely unsettled. "Oh, I just assumed. You assumed that she had to be made by my knowledge and willingness to love her?" "She didn't ask to be made," Phantom fired off, ghostly tail flicking with what Barry could think of as agitation. The room was quieting, attention drawn by the two most non-confrontational yet powerful members of the League staring each other down, with an angry teenager hovering over Marvel's shoulder. "Is this why Superboy doesn't live with you?" Marvel demanded. "You rejected him when he came to you in need?" The captain was full-on glaring, and Barry was tempted to crawl under the table to avoid this confrontation. Ozone was wafting through the air, frost spiraling on Marvel's shoulder where Phantom hovered. Superman looked scared. Superman protested. I didn't know he was made. He was made by my biggest enemy to replace me. Of course I was alarmed." Wrong move, Barry thought, hysterically as what sounded like lightning cracked out in a now dead silent room. Wrong move, wrong move. He was a scared child and he needed you, and you rejected him? You call yourself a hero, Marvel rumbled. Barry had seen Marvel in many different ways, in awe of the heroes he had found himself joining 2 years ago. Compassion and determination, daring fights and saving people, battling forces of nature. Barry thought he knew what Marvel looked like as a demigod. He was wrong. This was a demigod. Ozone in the air, danger prickling on his spine. The air pulled out of his lungs, the overwhelming feeling like someone bigger, stronger, angry in the room. Barry felt like he was staring up at a mountain, knowing he would never truly understand what it came to be, how it experienced existence, what it had seen. "I'm gonna pull a Batman," the young voice caught through the fog in Barry's mind, and he felt like he could finally breathe. He looked up at Phantom. When had he looked down? Who was now firmly ignoring Superman and was instead looking at Marvel. Marvel cut a confused look over to Phantom. the tension in the room cutting down another notch as Marvel started looking less hostile. Superman looked as pale as a Gothamite and seemed to be looking for the nearest polite exit. "What?" Marvel asked. "Pull a Batman. Adoption. I can do it," Phantom said with the absolute certainty of a stubborn teenager with a barely thought-through plan. He had heard that from Wally so many times. Barry almost reflexively said no. That would have been awkward. Marvel turned to fully face Phantom. Barry felt his heart go down from speed to sound to, "I just ran around the world 15 times. You don't have a legal identity. How would you manage that?" Marvel sounded amused, and far less pissed than he did moments ago. "I don't have an Earth legal identity. I can adopt him through the ghost system." Phantom turned to floating on his back in front of Captain Marvel, also being a convenient barrier between Marvel and Superman. But that might also take a century. How about a magical adoption? Oh, champion of magic. Marvel snorted, and Barry felt some more of the tension leave his body. Not sure that's how it works. "And Phantasm will fight you for the right." Ah, damn it. I didn't think of that. She'll pull a Batman all by herself. She doesn't need any help. "How about Superboy Sr.'s phone number?" Red Hood asked, waving the phone over at Phantom and Captain Marvel. Red Robin said he'll give it to me, but only if I tell him what for, and I don't know how I'm supposed to phrase this. Marvel fully turned away from Superman and strode over to Red Hood, with Phantom chattering idly over his shoulder. No more ozone, no more frost, no more static electricity making him feel like he was seconds away from the accident that gave him his powers all over again. Barry turned to Dinah. "Can I move my appointment closer?" The League's resident therapist looked at him, then the rest of the League as the shadow began to slowly resume. "I'll try to fit you in. I have a feeling I'm going to be very busy very soon." Danny ran his fingers through Billy's hair, pulling gently at the tangle and smoothing them out. They were reclining on the couch at home. They hadn't stayed much longer after, well, Superman. "So that was an evening," Danny said, and Billy huffed and buried his face in Danny's stomach. "Tell me what's on your mind." Billy sighed deeply. "Is it bad I don't regret getting mad at Superman and insulting him? You're not exactly supposed to insult your coworkers. And I think I really scared Flash. I didn't mean to, but that doesn't change the fact that I did. He didn't do anything wrong." Danny smiled gently and scratched lightly at Billy's scalp. "You were defending your family. And I think Superman may have needed the fear 6 gods and 1 Billy Batson put into him. If you apologized to Flash for scaring him, I'm sure he'd accept your apology. And I doubt this is the first time one of the League members got scary. Batman is always scary, isn't he?" Danny poked Billy in the side and Billy let out a giggle. "Batman wasn't scary when he was talking about Jason." Billy laughed. "So you could be reverse Batman, not be scary when it comes to everything but family. Well, he's always scary except when it comes to family." Billy snorted. "That's not how it works. I bet that anyone who insults any of the bats faces Batman's fury. And why do you have to be any different? You were defending Ellie and Superboy. I'm proud of you for telling him off." Danny smiled and pressed a kiss to Billy's head. Danny felt Billy's hands clutch in his shirt. "I did it for them, yeah, but I think I did it for me too." "Yeah? I was a scared kid too. People always tell you your family will be there for you. The police will help you. It's your teacher's job to help. They'll believe you. I was a scared kid and I just wanted someone." Danny felt his core pull as Billy sniffled into his shirt. "To look at me, really see me and how I feel and not reject me. I needed a hero. Superboy needed a hero to look at him and to see him. And Superman rejected him. I couldn't get people to help me when I was younger, but I can do something for Superboy, even when I can't do something for the person I was. A hero is supposed to help everyone unconditionally, and Superman didn't. So when a hero fucks up," Billy looked up at Danny, blue eyes glinting with determination, "and the surety of knowledge millennia old contained in a 12-year-old, it's gotta be someone who cares that fix it, and I do, I care. And that, I feel, is your greatest superpower," Danny said quietly, adjusting Billy into a hug. Billy latched on like a koala bear and shoved his face into Danny's neck. Danny heard him mumble, "What was that?" Billy turned his face. "It's yours too," Billy whispered. And Danny could have sworn his core stopped pulsing in time with his heart. "You care. You care for me. You may not be on the Justice League or fight crime, but..." Blue eyes filled with lightning and knowledge beyond his time met blue eyes shadowed with green, and an innate understanding of death people were never truly supposed to know. "You're my hero." Danny held Billy close as his core pulsed in an indescribable feeling that mostly just made him want to cry. "I love you," he whispered. "I love you too," Billy replied. The two remained on the couch for a while longer, and Danny's legs went numb. But he wouldn't trade this, not for anything in or out of existence. Hundreds of miles away, a young woman took out her phone to check her notifications. She looked at her text notifications as her long black hair whipped behind her. "Oh?" she thought, looking at the text from the man she called brother, and the boy she claimed as their nephew. A hopeful new addition to the family. Her face split into a wide grin that did not truly fit on her face. "I called dibs. Alright guys, and that's the end of chapter 4 of Who's Old Now by Lear Bourgeois. Hope you guys liked it, and I'll see you next chapter.